In this first part of a two-part series, we will work through a series of exercises designed to give an understanding of how to achieve the basic forms of glass blowing. We'll work through cups, bottles, bowls and plates, and finish with some mold-blown forms. The focus is on what the glass needs from us to achieve the forms that we're looking for. For those of you who are new to glass blowing, you can find a brief introduction to the tools we'll be using on my website, which you might want to watch first. You can also find links to some clips I've put together giving more details of the special skills required for glass blowing, such as gathering and marvering, which I suggest may be useful even to those of you with perhaps more experience. Now, before we get into the demonstrations, we need to discuss the importance of parison shapes. The parison is the relationship or comparison between the inner and outer layers of the glass bubble before blowing to size. This relationship is important because it determines the wall thickness, which is absolutely crucial. If the walls of our bubble are uneven, we will struggle to complete the piece successfully. Get the wall thickness correct and the piece can almost make itself. It all starts with the parison. The first thing to understand is that the bubble will always try to find the easiest way out, which is usually toward the end of the gather where the glass is hotter. This diagram shows an exaggerated beginner's parison. If we blow from a parison like this, we end up with a wall thickness which is thick by the iron and thin at the end, the exact opposite of what we need. To thin out the wall by the iron, which will be the top of our piece, and leave enough weight in the end for the base, we need to get the weight of glass off the iron and elongate it to a form like this. Now when we reheat and blow, the walls can expand without blowing out the end. With further reheating, stretching and cutting in, we should achieve a form with a wall thickness like this. Thin at the top so we can cleanly separate it from the iron, and thicker in the base where we will transfer to a punty. In the coming demonstrations, we will look at the different parisons which are required to achieve the different forms in glass blowing. We will also see how heating and selective cooling affects the development of the parison. Let's get into the demonstrations. We will start blowing with a simple straight-sided bowl using two gathers. Try to work the glass as hot as you can and always remember the basic rule. Keep turning. This is the first gather parison, partly inflated and ready for the second gather. The weight of the second gather is moved at the end, then partly inflated. The parison after stretching and cutting in, now ready for blowing to size. Blowing to size, notice the weight in the base. Sides and base are formed, then the piece is transferred to a punty and opened out. Let's do it. Start by warming the iron to a dull red heat. Clear any moisture from the pipe by blowing it out before gathering. Push the pipe lengthways into the glass, giving at least one full turn before slowly pulling the pipe out and increasing the speed as we do so. Here we are looking into the furnace as we gather. Let the tail drop off before lifting the fresh gather out of the furnace. Keep the iron turning all the time as we return to the bench. Use the block to pull the fresh glass off the iron, putting the glass where we can use it. Go to the marver. Start with the back end of the iron down and slowly raise as we turn to again pull the glass off the iron. Trap air in the pipe with our thumb to start the bubble. Marver once more. Blow the bubble to size. We're looking for a good even wall thickness. Tool the glass to shape and allow it to cool. Glass must be cool enough to support the fresh gather. Gather again, aiming for an even coat of fresh glass. Let the glass settle and return to the bench, being careful to keep the glass on centre at all times. Use the block again to pull the fresh glass off the iron, being careful to release the pressure as we reverse the turn, otherwise we can dent the gather. Always keep the block wet. Reheat briefly to regularise the heat between the gathers. Back to the marver, where we put a cold skin on the glass by rolling on the cold steel, being careful to lift off at the end of each roll. Point up the end. This can be tricky to learn, but is an essential skill. Now, with an even cold skin on the glass, we can blow against that skin to make a good regular bubble. Return to the bench. The cold skin is soon softened by the latent heat of the gather, and we allow gravity to stretch out the neck while pointing up the end with either a wet wooden paddle or a waxed steel paddle. Inflate the gather a little and cut in. Angle the blades to make a narrow waist before making a straight cut at the top. This is the best way to make a cut which breaks off cleanly. Then we blow up to size. The point we formed on the end of the gather leaves a thicker area of hot glass which will support the punty. We push this up to form the base. Reheat briefly if necessary. The assistant brings the punty. We make this in the bench by stripping off the excess glass and tooling back. Get your eyes where you can see to place the punty. Centre it by pushing down where it is high as you turn. Chill the neck with the jacks to start some cracks and quickly tap it off. Reheat, being careful not to get it too hot for the open end may close up. Use one blade of the jacks to tease it open, then put both blades deep into the piece and lift as you slowly open the jacks. Tool the sides to make them straight, then true the rim to finish the piece. Transfer to a wooden fork, chip the joint of the punty and knock the piece off. The piece is placed in the layer to cool overnight. Now we'll make a variation on the simple bowl using centrifugal force to flare out the rim. The preparation of the blown form is much the same as for the small bowl we did before. With this piece we'll use a paper block to help form the parison and see how to use the nibblers to shear the rim and use wood jacks to open out and control the form. Also see how to mount the punty without an assistant. We'll pick this up where the bubble has been blown to size and is ready for shaping. Reheat. Let the form stretch as we return to the bench. Then work to shape with a paper block before pushing up the base. It can be easier to form the base of a wooden board. Hold the board at an angle to make a point first, then turn in the point to make a good flat base. To transfer without an assistant, reheat without making the piece soft. Crack off into a wood trough. Quickly gather and form a punty. Then attach to the base of the piece. Use the edge of the trough to steady the iron. Push to make a firm connection and check for centre. If the punty is off centre, turn till the punty is high and push down in the trough to centre. Reheat. Open the rim slightly. Trim with the shears, being careful not to push the glass into the shears. Let the shears pull the glass around. Reheat. Use the woods to open up behind the rim. Don't open the rim itself. Reheat. When the rim starts to become floppy, spin the iron gently to open out the rim. True the rim with the woods if necessary. And there's the finished piece. A simple but very instructive form to make is a sphere. We'll build up a larger gather and use a steam stick to help puff it up to shape. Turn from a piece of wood. The steam sticks are kept wet and are very simple to use. Never let them dry out, but when they crack, the pressure simply escapes. The parison for the sphere is much the same as for the small bowls. We pick this up at the second gather, which is almost fully inflated and allowed to cool. Make a lightweight gather. Use the block to steady the form as the inner gathers start to wake up with the heat. Steady the form with the paper block, moving weight toward the base as we do so. Have a close look at the gather here. See how the glass shows areas of light and dark, indicating the hot and cold layers. We need to regularise the heat in these layers before we blow. Otherwise, the bubble will find the easiest way out and very likely go off centre. Reheat. See here how the layers of temperature have become more even after reheating. Marver carefully now to put an even cold skin on the parison. Then gently inflate. From here, things happen quite quickly. Reheat. Then allow the top to stretch and thin out as the parison falls to the marver, while we chill and point the end. Cut in across the back of the marver. Blow to size before the chilled base wakes up. This leaves a good weight of glass in the centre to mount the punty on. Make a final cut with the jacks. There should still be enough heat to allow the base to be pushed up. After a quick heat in the glory hole, mount the punty. Chill the neck and crack off. Reheat and tease out the rim for shearing. Shear quickly but gently without pushing the iron. Let the shears drag the piece around. Reheat deep in the glory hole. Use the steam stick to blow the form to shape. And there we have it, all ready for our fish. I've always enjoyed making bottles. They're a great exercise for jack control. We'll make a small bottle with a short neck and a stopper to seal it. Then we'll see how to grind in the stopper when we've finished. We'll use a double gather, blocked and marvered to a cylinder, then partially blown out. After reheating, the neck is stretched with gravity and formed with the jacks. Then the piece is blown to size and the base pushed up. Always clear the iron before gathering. Coat the iron with the small first gather. Wait 10 seconds for the gather to settle. Then immediately gather again. Let the glass settle and keep turning as we return to the chair. Use the block to pull the weight off the iron, remembering to release pressure as we reverse the turn. Reheat, then marver into a cylinder. Start with the back end of the iron lower than the marver, slowly raising to horizontal as we roll the iron with our fingers. Trap air in the pipe for the first bubble, then blow out to half fill the parison. Reheat, using gravity to stretch the parison while chilling the end on the marver. Inflate a little more. Use the jacks at an angle to make a waist. Pull out the neck as we raise the jacks to vertical. Cut in to make a separation crease. Blow to size. Reheating if necessary. Use a board to make a shallow cone on the end. Turn the cone in to make a base. Offer up the punty, connect it in the centre, push down to make it true. Crack off. Reheat, being careful not to close up the neck. Use one prong of the jacks to open the rim, then get both prongs in to finish. Carefully chip the punty and crack off. For the stopper, make a gather on a bit iron or punty. Marver out to a long rod, slowly raising the iron as we roll. Cut in. Working progressively from the iron, form the neck. Cut in again. Tease out the tail. Reheat. Pull out the tail. Chill on the arm of the bench and knock off the end. Reheat to round off the break, and there we have it. After annealing, the stopper can be dressed on a wet grinding wheel. Then, with a little carborundum paste mixed with water, the stopper can be ground into the bottle. With a little care, a very good fit can be achieved. Now we'll scale things up and make a larger bottle with a long neck. We use gravity to pull out the neck, which involves getting the gather hotter and learning the essential skill of how to control the glass when it is more mobile. The low marver is very useful for this, as we'll see. Marver the parison to a long tapered form. The differences can be subtle, don't make it too long. The form is inflated near the iron with plenty of weight left in the end before stretching the form and cutting in a shoulder and separation crease. The neck is stretched with gravity and the body blown to size before the base is pushed up. We'll start with a double gather, blown about half full. Use a steel paddle or the jacks to temper the glass as we wait for it to cool and harden. The wall of the parison needs to be thick enough to support the weight of the fresh gather. Without being so thick, it will not wake up when we need it to. Gather and return to the bench, being careful to keep the gather centered. Pull the weight off the iron with the block. The inner gather should slowly wake up as you do this. Reheat, then temper the surface on the marver. Point the end while gently inflating the parison to thin out the top. This can also be done in the bench with a paper block while your assistant blows in the iron. Reheat, point the end, cut in the top. Reheat, pull out a short neck. Reheat again and allow to stretch while we control the end on the low marver. We could do this on the high marver, but the low marver allows us to blow at the same time. While the end is still cool from the marver, blow to size. This keeps a good weight in the base. In the chair, we use a board or the jacks to point then flatten the base using the residual heat. If we have to reheat to flatten the base, it is very easy to lose the form. Reheat again. Make a donut punty. And crack off. Reheat again. Long neck bottles usually need to be sheared using the nibblers. Remember not to push the shears into the glass. Just follow the cut gently. Reheat. Using the jacks deep in the neck to temper it before we flare the rim, opening the jacks as we do so. Next, we'll make a stopper to fit. Start with the single gather marvered to a short cylinder. Blow this out to a small even-walled parison and allow to cool. Cover the parison with a light gather. Allow the heat to penetrate to the cool inner form. Reheat, holding the gather low. Marver out to a cylinder. In the bench, check with the calipers to get an idea of size, then cut in next to the iron. Slope the jacks to make a taper. Bring jacks to vertical and cut in a waist, closing off the bubble as we cut in. Tool to shape and check the size. Reheat. There is our finished stopper. The wide shallow bowl is a very simple form, but can be surprisingly challenging to make. As the size increases, it becomes more important to regularise the heat between the gathers to keep the parison central. We will strip the last few gathers to help achieve a regular parison. We'll build up a series of gathers and partly inflate. The parison is stretched with gravity and cut in to form a separating crease. The base is cooled to retain some weight and the parison blown to size. After transferring to the punty, the form is opened from the inside below the rim. The rim is finally spun out to shape. We'll start this piece with a standard thick-walled first bubble. Make the second gather, being sure to keep it centred as we return to the bench. Use the block to gently pull the glass off the iron. Allow to settle. Then reheat. Marver the gather to chill and shape the parison. Before gently inflating the form. In the bench, shape the parison with a wet paper block and inflate to an even wall thickness. There must be enough weight in the walls to support the next gather. Allow to cool before gathering. Make a third gather, push the parison into the melt, give one full turn before slowly pulling the gather out, allowing the tail to separate as we move the iron to horizontal. Strip off the excess glass into a bucket. Bring the iron to horizontal to wrap the tail around the end of the gather to separate. If the strip is done well, there should be little need to block the glass. Reheat again. Regularly reverse the direction of turn while heating to stop the parison twisting. Chill the surface on the marver to make a cold skin before gently inflating. This is the secret to getting a piece to blow straight. Shape with the paper block. Note the weight distribution in the walls. Allow to cool and harden before making the last gather. Make the final gather strip as before. Block if necessary, and reheat to equalise the temperature between the layers of glass. Use the marver to put an even cold skin on the parison before gently inflating the form. Reheat again. Chill and restrain the end by rolling on the marver while we inflate the upper part of the parison. Reheat again. Allow the parison to fall away from the iron to thin the neck a little while we chill the base. Use the back of the marver to make a first cut. The iron must be at right angles to the cutting edge to avoid cutting a spiral. Finish the cut in the bench. Put a short blow in the parison to keep the form. Reheat. Point and chill the base on the marver before blowing to size. The point will ensure there is a good weight to mount the punty on. Hold the parison high, allowing the form to fall back toward the iron. Cap or seal the iron with the palm of your right hand to stop the air escaping. Reheat again. Puff out gently to make a good form. Then turn in the point to make the base, using the jacks or a wooden board. Mark the centre with engineer's chalk. This will help the punty to crack off cleanly. Flash in the glory hole. Put chill marks into the cut and crack off smartly before the chill marks heal. Gather and make a punty in the bench. Some prefer to use a pre-made punty, which is simply reheated. Place the punty in the centre of the base and push firmly to connect. Check the centre for true before reheating. If the punty is off, find the high point, then push it down in the trough. Reheat, remembering to warm the whole piece. Using the jacks to open the rim slightly. Reheat again if necessary, then shear the rim. Being careful not to push the shears into the glass, as this will push the rim off centre. Let the shears pull the form around. Reheat again. Use the woods to open the form from the shoulder by pushing down gently with the ends. Work to a good rounded form. Reheat again. Gently spin out the upper part of the bowl as we return to the bench. Use the woods to control the outside of the form as we finally spin out the rim. There is our finished piece. The joint is chipped with a sharp chisel and knocked off. The punty mark is melted in with an oxy flame, and the piece is put away with a burnt wooden fork. A variation of the wide bowl is the plate or platter. The preparation is almost the same as the wide bowl, but we make the base wider and use centrifugal force to spin the piece out to shape. As ever, the key to success is careful preparation. To make a plate, we need to flatten the form quite a way. Use the jacks to keep the form central while the base is flattened with the board. Puff out the base a little to get some shape. Push in the centre again to form the base. Reheat. We'll use a wide donut punty, firmly attached, using plenty of chalk to help separate. Chill a few cracks into the neck and crack off. Reheat. Open from low in the form. Do not open the rim more than necessary. Reheat, using centrifugal force to widen the base at the same time. Use the woods to expand the base. You will need to shield the heat from your hands. Reheat deep in the glory hole. We need heat in the base. As the form starts to become floppy, take it out of the glory hole and gently spin to open the rim and flatten the form. Take care not to catch the rim on the sides. Use the woods to gently lift the rim. Chip all around the punty before tapping off and putting away. Now we'll move on to mould blown pieces. Though not commonly used in a studio, moulds are an essential part of commercial glass blowing. The knowledge of how to use them can be very useful in helping to pay your bills. For making accurate, repeatable forms with speed, they are essential. One of the moulds we'll use is a simple metal mould made from a steel tube with a porous carbonised liner. The mould is drilled to allow steam to escape and is soaked in water before each use. To line the mould, paint the inside with linseed oil, then fill with fine sawdust. Leave it overnight and then tip out the excess sawdust and cook it around 280 degrees centigrade in a reducing or gas-rich atmosphere. This will cook the sawdust on and leave a nice carbonised layer. The principle of the wet rotational mould is that the steam generated by the heat from the glass creates a gaseous lubricant which separates the glass from the mould. As the top of the piece will be cut off when cold, rather like this, we can use a technique known as gathering on a post. The separation crease is formed before making the final gather, which speeds up the whole process. The setup of the parison for mould blowing is quite different to that of a free blown piece. Enough weight has to be positioned in areas that blow out away to ensure an even wall thickness in the finished piece. The parison for the post should look something like this. Gather fresh glass over the post but below the separation crease. Then inflate this to make an even wall parison for blowing into the mould. We'll start by making the post. Build up 2 gathers, lock to shape, then fully inflate. Let the neck stretch. Use the jacks to make a waist. Then make a cut where the piece will crack off. We need an even wall thickness throughout. Gather below the cut. Using the block to control the form as the inner gathers start to wake up. Reheat. Then blow the form up a little. Let it stretch out to the full length of the mould. Tap the parison into the base to ensure the mould is full and spread the glass into the corners before blowing to size. Rotate all the time. The steam coming off the wet mould rapidly cools the glass, so withdraw before the piece cracks. Give a quick reheat to remove any chill cracks and put the piece away. The top of mould blown pieces are usually cut off rather than opened out on a punty. This can be done with a diamond saw or with a process known as cracking off. To do this, we need a turntable, a glass cutter and an oxy-torch. Place the piece on the turntable and set up a rest at the height where we want to cut. Dip the cutter in kerosene, then lightly score the piece around. Now we adjust an oxy flame to a very fine point. And bring the side of the flame onto the score as we rotate the piece. In a short time, you'll hear the glass crack. If the crack does not immediately go all the way around, use a steel rod to tap the top where the crack is open. This will finish the crack. Lift off the top and we're done. There are many variations on the crack off process. I suggest you experiment to find out which one works best for you. For this piece, we'll use a two-part wooden mould. Wood moulds are relatively easy to make if you have access to a wood lathe and can provide years of use provided they are kept wet. This is a two-part mould which I made to produce lampshades to a client's design. Metal pegs ensure the two halves register correctly so we don't get any marks on the glass. The inside layer is carbonised by simply blowing hot glass through it. Prepare a post in the same way as before. Cut in well to ensure the piece separates easily and tool to shape. Allow to cool until the post is hard enough to provide stable support while your assistant prepares the mould. Gather on the post, keeping the glass well below the neck. Use the block to control the glass as the post wakes up or softens. Reheat to regularise the temperatures. Inflate part way, go into the mould. Turning all the time, blow progressively until the mould is full. Then blow hard for a few seconds to ensure all the detail is picked up, especially around the top, which tends to be cooler. Remove the glass before the steam stops, otherwise the mould will burn. Open one side only to prevent putting a crease in the glass. Flash the piece in the glory hole before chilling the neck and cracking off. Well, that's all for now. I hope you found this presentation useful. I've left the comments box open and will be pleased to hear your feedback. In part 2, we'll see how to apply handles, stems and feet. Then we'll look at some basic colouring techniques and progress to some more sophisticated and challenging forms. Until then, I'll say good day.